If you are interested in scaling your brand, doing paid ads, this is your guy.
Do not run another marketing meeting without having this simple 60-minute finance meeting that will get all of your numbers on track.
You can crush organic. It makes paid ad just so much easier. A lot of businesses make the mistake of they don't have any touch points after the sale. You know, their job's done, they got the sale, they're good to go. Without really understanding, okay, like we need to keep this person coming back. The profit is built and the cash flows, it's really built in the lifetime value of a customer. It's a lot of cash going out. It naturally is. And anyone that can guarantee or say, oh yeah, in 7 days or in 1 month, I guarantee, 30 new patients, all that stuff, it's usually a load of BS.
All right, welcome back to What Can We Get Into? This week we got an amazing guest. If you are interested in scaling your brand, doing paid ads, this is your guy. Everybody welcome Patrick O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Justin, for having me.
Of course, man. Tell us about yourself and what you do. Give us like a little backstory on what got you to Dallas, Texas and owning this business.
Yeah, absolutely. So 5 years ago, I was studying finance in college and thought I was going to go down the finance path, but I was always super passionate about marketing. I was following guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, and I followed brands in the fitness space like Gymshark, and some of these brands are really coming out and blowing up on the social media scene. And before I was super into fitness, I was into business. So I was trying to figure out what the hell to do in my life because I didn't really want to go down the finance path. And so COVID hit, and that's where I took a leap, was like, okay, let me just figure out how to make my first couple $1,000s by myself. And one thing led to another. I said, okay, I'm going to hit up a bunch of local businesses. I'm going to do videography for them. And then, one thing led to another. All of a sudden I'm managing social media pages. And then, oh, you're good at this. Let's shoot some real estate drone videos. And so up in the Boston area, I was just a jack of all trades, random clientele from gyms to restaurants to kind of all over the place. And so I remember between my junior and senior year in the finance world, you got to get that big internship between junior and senior year. And I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to, take this risk and try to work on my business. And so that's where I spent that summer transitioning from all the local marketing stuff up in the Boston area to figure out how do I do stuff that's scalable because I'm only one guy. And so I got into the e-commerce space really just off the back of YouTube University and trial and error. And so, once I started to learn Facebook ads in the e-commerce world, one of my first clients was a guy named Cannon, who's down here in Frisco. And he had this crazy story. He blew up this fitness apparel brand off the back of TikTok. And he was a walk-on at Texas Tech. And he was like grinding football and grinding this business. And he was my first e-commerce client. And I was running his ads and kind of learning on the job a little bit how to do everything. And then, work with him for a while. And then we kind of were like, why don't we just team up? Let's build this bigger agency. Our original focus was the fitness space, fitness e-commerce, and that's where his network was, and that's where we were kind of gaining a reputation. So let's start in the fitness industry. Let's be that agency. And so it was myself, my partner, Cannon, who's from Dallas, and then our third partner, Zach, who's from San Diego. And so it all kind of clicked, and by the time I graduated, it was like, okay, we're just going to sign a lease down in Dallas. We're going to move. I had my girlfriend at the time. We're just going to move down here and build this agency. And so last 3 years, it's just been 100% focused on growing that and ate shit for a year. And now we're moving and grooving. So
that is an insane story, man.
Yeah.
So this guy in Frisco, did you say how you met him? How did you meet him?
Yeah, literally, honestly, it was just content. So back in my college days when I was just like grinding and working on my business, I'd post these like little day in my life type videos on TikTok. And I think he found me on TikTok or he followed me or whatever. And so when I saw he followed me, I was familiar with his company. I just shot him a DM like, hey, let me run your Facebook ads or whatever. And I was all fired up to, bring him on as my first like e-commerce or one of my first e-commerce clients. And so we were just like Zoom calls every single week, whatever, built a friendship, built that trust. And so we're like, let's take this to another level.
How did you get good at learning Facebook, Meta ads?
Yeah, I mean, I was very familiar. Like a big piece of Facebook ads is like the creative components. How do you create good ad creative? And so, one thing led to another. Obviously, I signed up for courses and YouTube and just like nonstop learning and just getting all that information, but really you have to like actually do it to learn it. A lot of this stuff is like theory, but you actually have to like have a client give you an ad budget, actually tinker around on a daily basis. And then you slowly kind of get a rhythm of how to actually do it. So a lot of self-education, definitely didn't learn that in my finance courses or college courses. A lot of this newer age marketing stuff is, it's always changing. So you have to be kind of ahead of the ball there.
That was something I looked into when I first started this business is, when my first week, I think my wife paid like $100 on Facebook to push like hey, we're open, like a photo of the front with the text across. Looking back, I was like, what? We literally threw $100 down the drain. Like who saw this?
Yeah.
This is completely ridiculous. But I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about 6 months in where I was like, okay, I need to start pushing some paid ads. I hadn't been doing any organic content, but I was like, let's push some paid ads. I'm not much of like hey, there's a $49 special coming the door. I definitely am not that guy. I'm not going to discount my services on ads, whatever. But I wanted to try to get my name out there. And I was looking around at different courses, and there's a lot of guys selling snake oil on how to do that. How did you navigate? What was a good course? What was good advice?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like, you definitely want to follow someone that's actually doing exactly, what you want to do. So like, that was always a big focus. Like I've invested a lot into self-education. There's plenty of gurus, plenty of snake oil salesmen out there. And once you learn the fundamentals, you start to kind of like learn your own craft. And actually, like I said, like once you start to manage these budgets, like you kind of just have to do it. You just have to like keep trying and chipping away. It's like, reading a book about being a chiropractor. Obviously, you don't really know until you're actually doing those like demonstrations and practicing and everything. So it's kind of the same thing, and it's just one thing leads to another, trial and error. And then, I mean, the info space, the online marketing space, everyone's trying to sell a course. It can be, a lot to, digest, but I always just look for guys that actually have been in my shoes I'm trying to get to, and not that their wealth has been built off of selling this course.
So fast forward, that was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago that I was looking into this. I never did it actually.
Yeah.
And then I got introduced to Gary Vee and his content, and I was like, you know what? I need to dig in. I need to create some organic content.
Yeah.
He's a big proponent on organic content, pushing what does well into paid media. What is your experience with that?
Yeah, 100%. Even with our e-commerce brands, I mean, if you can crush organic, it makes paid ad just so much easier. Because, obviously on the organic side, you're learning how to create content. You're not spending for those views. You're trying to figure out what naturally the algorithm picks up. And then from there, you can always parlay that winning content onto paid ads. And so we see that with the clients that we work with. And we have many clients that have, quite frankly, terrible organic social media presences, and they still make paid ads work. But when you have that organic base, it's almost like a testing ground to figure out what works and what doesn't before you start to put spend behind it.
So do you try to educate them to get better at organic so that you have a better base of what will work for them, or how do you guide them through the process with your agency?
Totally. Yeah. So with e-commerce marketing, my partners and I always joke around. It's kind of the Super Bowl of advertising and marketing, because there's so much competition. Ad costs are getting more expensive. And so what we do is like, we have a process internally to actually create that creative. So for example, for a lot of e-commerce brands, UGC creative, user generated content, is like the big style of content that a lot of brands want. Yeah. So, you get a supplement, you get a girl, who's maybe in her 40s struggling with menopause or something, and the supplement helps you basically, create these content pieces for them. And so what we do in the agency is we have like a network of 200 plus creators that are signed on to our agency. We have a brand that's interested in content. Like we'll do all that for them in-house. But I mean, like with everything, it's great. We can totally do that for them. But if they also have that base of content, if they've already solved that, if they've already figured out what messaging works, it's a lot easier to take that and then kind of just scale it up, put fuel on that fire.
Interesting. Taking Gary Vee's philosophy, I've not really applied his paid ads. And one of the reasons I actually found you through your video, and it's kind of funny, I should have told this at the beginning. You put a video out on like why Dallas is an underrated city. That did really well for you, by the way.
That's So, with Instagram specifically, I've just had like an identity crisis on like Instagram, because like it's kind of been on the back burner. Sometimes we repurpose like videos and just throw stuff out there. And there's guys I follow that, I'm not gonna be, talking about the ins and outs of an ad account, it's not very top of funnel. It's very niche. It's very middle or bottom of funnel when you think about a marketing funnel. So I'm like, I'm just going to just like start yapping on the camera. And I have a good buddy of mine that I grew up with, that his name's Terrence. He moved from the Boston area down to Tampa Bay, and he just yaps like why Tampa is the best city ever. And with that, like, everyone has a very strong opinion on whether Dallas is good, bad, Dallas sucks, all this good stuff. And so I was like, let's just start throwing some like polarizing, hot takes out there. It'll get 100,000, 60,000 views or whatever. No, 99% of those people aren't going to be a qualified business owner that's looking to spend $50,000 a month on marketing. But, who knows? Maybe I meet someone cool like this, and, we're on a podcast now. So it definitely trickles down. So with Instagram, I'm kind of viewing it just like super top of funnel, just yapping, trying to show my personality, and then letting my ads, because I run a ton of ads for my agency to actually get clients, that will do the actual selling of bringing in people.
The reason I bring that up is, one, that's how I found you. So cool. Two, most of my videos that have had virality in comparison to my normal baseline are things that I'm like for instance, my first viral video was like my fourth or fifth video. So my first 4 videos, I'm in here and I'm like, okay, I want to do what was popular at the time is, they like the front desk girl at a doctor's office would be like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, rate these top 5 things. And you wouldn't know what was coming. So you have to be like, oh, 5, right? And you didn't know what was coming next. So I had my front desk girl, I gave her 10 restaurants, and I record her asking me these questions and me going top 10 Dallas restaurants. Well, at the very beginning, a little bit about me, I moved here from Ohio not too long ago. And in comparison to Ohio, the restaurant and food scene is way better. Well, I start out the video going, oh, this is going to be hard. The Dallas food scene is one of the best. And people are like, you idiot. Yeah. Have you ever been outside of Dallas? Like, have you been to Houston? Have you been to Chicago? Like, yes, I have. I'm just saying in my anyways.
Yes.
The reason I bring that up is most of my stuff that's done well is not stuff that I would put paid ads behind.
Right.
Because it's either like that, or it's podcast clips where my guest is saying something that's going viral, and I'm like, I'm not going to push that. So that theory has been like, okay, I can imagine if I have one video where I'm talking about what I do and it really resonates, and I feel like the CTA is there, or I can add a good CTA that's relevant, but I haven't had any that have shown any virality that I'm like, I'm going to put paid ads behind.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Obviously I'm thinking more, e-commerce world, but 100% like the structure of an organic piece of content that'll go viral is a lot different than like an ad, right? So like with an ad, you might want to have a strong hook, and then you want to isolate a problem. Are you struggling with X, Y, and Z, or this product? Like create a villain, and then present yourself as a solution, and then have a call to action, ideally with an offer. Versus organic content, you're ranking restaurants. You're just trying to get people to start yapping in the comments.
Exactly. So I'm obviously a smaller business. I've been at this 18 months. We have 3 employees. It's pretty small. At what point do you feel like someone can do ad spend in-house versus hiring an agency like yours, where you're talking your clients are spending 50 G's a month? Yeah.
So, I mean, the average client that we work with, like on the e-commerce side, like they're spending, like e-com is like, it's all your cash is going to marketing. Like it's just like run up ads as much as possible. And when I was running local marketing in the Boston area, and we still have a few clients that are more local businesses, I think it's extremely powerful for any business owner to learn paid ads. Like I think it's very straightforward. Meta has made it a lot easier than it was even 5 years ago. Whereas AI stuff is like, you can literally just be like, select Carrollton, location, throw 5 ads at it. And I guarantee in a week, you could probably get some leads and stuff like that. Now, I think where the complexity has for local businesses is that you could get leads, but then it's the lead nurturers. Do they actually show up? Are they qualified? Are they actually like really good customers to take on? So I think you can get, depending on your budget, I think it's great to learn the fundamentals in-house. And so, you can do that through YouTube or buying a course or whatever. And I'd recommend, like, you might actually be better off like watching free YouTube content. And let's just say you have a budget of $5,000, instead of throwing that budget at a course, like just spend cash on ads and just like tinker with it. Like even if it's just like $20 a day, you can just tinker with it.
Get your hands dirty.
Yeah. And it depends, like, right. So if you're your time is valuable. And so this is the other conversation that business owners have to, consider. Yes, patient acquisition, client acquisition, customer acquisition, whatever you want to call it, is a very important part of the business. Do you have the time? Is it worth your time to focus on that? For some business owners, obviously they just want to get an agency that's competent enough that they trust, that can just run in the background and they don't have to, pay too much attention to it. But I do think it's important for any business owner to at least know the fundamentals, because that only makes you more competent and aware when you do hire or outsource that service.
You had a quote in a video recently talking about revenue solves all.
Yeah.
And I found that to be striking, and it's really true, because like revenue is really in acquiring new patients and new customers is really what solves all in business. I like how you really boiled that down into something simple, because sometimes business can seem so overwhelming, so like day to day is, did I win or did I lose? But I feel like your quote of revenue solves all really is important, a mindset for any business owner. When people come to you, what are they looking for in terms of revenue? Are they trying to double their revenue? Are they trying to see if the ads will work? What do they come to you asking for?
Yeah, whenever we sit down, like the first conversation, that like one of the most important things in those, initial calls is like the expectation alignment. So I might talk to a founder that, who knows, maybe they just raised $1 million of funding, they're just ready to scale, and they want to hit these crazy growth rates. Then I talk to these bootstrap companies that they're just looking for steady growth month over month, their margins matter, et cetera, et cetera. So every client has their own goals. And so it's very important for us to get on the same page there, so that as we work together, we're aligned on that goal versus, we scaled up ad spend, we're scaling, but they're like, holy crap, this is a lot of cash going, I can't manage this. Because if you start scaling or investing into marketing, you got to manage all these variables. And so, we have our brands that want to, hyper growth. They're even ready to lose on marketing on the front end, and they just want scale. And then there's those, founders that want to bootstrap. So aligning on those expectations and then working backwards to understand what's your cost of goods sold, what's your average order value or average price of a service or lifetime value of a customer. Like, let's map out all these things. And then what are those, benchmarks that we're going to track week over week to know that we're on the right track? Because oftentimes, especially for any company that hasn't run marketing or ads, it's a lot of cash going out. It's naturally is. And anyone that can guarantee or say, oh yeah, in 7 days or in 1 month, I guarantee, 30 new patients, all that stuff, it's usually a load of BS, because you have to it's a totally new frontier. You have to get a baseline of data, and then you're optimizing that over time.
How long is a good amount of time to know the metrics that you're either headed down the right track or you got to switch to the creative?
Sure. So, it depends. It depends a lot on your ad spend. I would say, for a big brand, that's spending, anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 a month, like you can get those like learnings very quick. The micro learnings, like the efficiency of your ads and how much your cost per acquisition is and all that good stuff, relatively fast. And even for, I'd say like a local business, because you don't need that much ad spend to like take over this you can target 10-mile radius of this whole area. Like everyone in your town will probably see you with a couple $1,000s of spend.
So a couple thousand. Yeah. That was always as a new business owner, obviously cash flow is huge. You're constantly trying to balance like, okay, do I want to throw $1,000, $2,500 into Meta, not really know what I'm doing, and then my return is like hard to track.
Yeah.
What are the metrics you guys use to track this? I know in e-commerce, it's probably easier with seeing people come directly from the ad.
Sure.
For me, the only way that I can really do it is by asking people or have it on my intake paperwork. Where did you find me?
Right.
How do you guys track what you're doing is making a positive impact?
Yeah. So there's kind of two sides of marketing advertising. You have like the e-commerce, and there's lead generation. And you're kind of in the business of getting leads and patients in the door, which typically means they're not purchasing, they're not transacting on an ad. They're not going to buy your whole service online. You have to come in for a consultation, wherever it might be. And that's the same thing with when I run ads for my agency. We spend probably $30,000 a month on ads just for getting clients for us. So it's the same way that you'd say, okay, you know, you have to figure out, okay, how much is a customer, we work backwards here, is like, how much is a customer worth to us? Usually we say, you know, on like a first purchase or first transaction, so like the first 30 days, and then, you know, a lifetime value. And usually for lifetime value, depends industry to industry. For us, we look at a 6-month lifetime value. And ideally you want to be, you know, cash flow positive, or at least at a break even, especially if you're in a high lifetime value business. So think any sort of membership, or, you know, I'm sure you have patients come back, and like if there's multiple purchases, then you might be able to be more aggressive with that lifetime value. But most of the time we want to be cash flow positive on the first purchase, because hey, if we're cash flow positive on the first purchase,
it's gravy.
It's great. You know, all the returning is bonus. So, so from there, once we understand, you know, what the price points are, great. Then we'll figure out like, what's our gross profit on that? So how much does it actually cost you to provide that service? Okay, great. Now we should have a gross profit metric. And then from there we can say, okay, that gross profit is like our break-even acquisition on the front end. So like, let's just say for example's purposes, you have $1,000 offer, $200 is the cost of goods sold. We have $800 of gross profit. So I can afford to spend up to $800 on marketing to acquire that customer, or else I'm in the red on the first purchase. But some brands are fine with if they have strong lifetime value. So for then when it's a chiropractor or any local business, you're going to launch ads. You're going to want to have an offer, and you can frame that. I know you said like you don't want to do like any gimmicky type stuff. Like there's ways to stay premium, stay, you know, luxury. There's ways to position a good offer that's still appealing. And you're going to have, obviously the way that we track it is obviously they'll opt in. So whether it's a lead form, or they book a consultation as a calendar or something, they book in. You can see, you know, depending on what CRMs or software you use, you can tag them if they're from paid ads, ideally track them all the way through their journey. And then for a lot of times for local businesses, they struggle with people opting in, but actually getting them in the door. So usually you want to have a good follow-up system, calling them up, hey, confirming your appointment, some emails, blah, 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 get them all warmed up. They come, transact. And so what you're going to track throughout that process is what's our lead cost, what's our cost per show consultation, someone actually walk through the door or whatever, and then our cost per acquisition, or, you know, cost per patient, wherever we call it in this industry. But essentially that will be our baseline. And so I would recommend like any local business maybe start running $50 a day in ads. And, you know, sometimes for these businesses, like you might only need couple customers to break even, you know, from that. And so it's really important to track that too, because like ads, you can 100% see if a lead opts in, where they came from, did they show up with just a proper CRM and pipeline.
Give me your opinion on this. So I haven't done much in the cold marketing, right? Mm-hmm. I utilize something called ZocDoc. Are you familiar with it?
So like a referral?
It is. So like if you were wanting to go on there and find a dermatologist, you would go on there and basically it's free to be a part of it as a doctor, and you pay per acquisition, right? Mm-hmm. So per someone puts on my schedule, I pay them $50, right? At the very beginning, I was like, this is a really expensive thing. And then I was looking at more recently, actually, because I've really dove into this in the past couple months, you know, what the lifetime value is, even if they just show up once, what that value is. So there are ways that you can actually, it's called sponsored on there, where you basically pay to be a higher listing. And at first I was like, you know, how much do I want to put towards this? And then I thought to myself, well, you know, if you throw $1,000 at Meta, cold people, they're not necessarily looking for a doctor, where something like ZocDoc, you're only paying for that acquisition of a client, and you know they're a warm or hot, I'm not a marketing guy, but a warm or even a hot lead, because they're actively looking for that. What's your opinion on something like that for my industry?
So I think it's you know, if the cost makes sense, it's a good play. But obviously it makes your business so much more valuable, effective, and profitable if you can solve your own customer acquisition source, right? So I think those are totally viable, 100%. I think there's like a few fundamentals for like a local business to do well. It's like, okay, are we ranking high on Google when someone search for us? Do we have good Google reviews? You know, it's a lot of that stuff, and even ranking on these sites. But I think, you know, the idea that like on Meta, they know the behavior of everyone. So the second that anyone searches up, back pain or whatever, and they're in this area, like Meta's going to feed your ads to that. So they still do. It's not just like completely cold, unqualified people seeing your ads. Over time, the algorithm will be like, okay, this guy's a chiropractor. We're only going to feed this ads to people showing signs, based upon their data. Like they know everyone in this area and what their interests are.
Can you tailor that data to, hey, I want, stay-at-home moms that like how much people say that you can do that. I've not gotten in the weeds. You would obviously know better. How much niching down can you do on these ads?
Yeah. So if we were talking like 3 to 5 years ago, when I first got started in the space, it was all about in the ads manager, like targeting, if you want to target women, men, certain age demographics, interests, they even had, at one point they had, income bracket. Like you would go like super in the weeds in the Meta ads manager of actually like trying to parse out and do that manual targeting. Now, with all this AI, this is the conversation I have constantly with our clients, is that we actually want to keep targeting relatively broad. So like for local business, it would be, we definitely want to be just basically geo-target, maybe an age demo, but that's it. And then the creative does a lot of the targeting. So for, creative, what the Meta will scan, what does the creative and copy say? Okay, if the copy is targeting this demographic, okay, cool. What's even down to like the skin color of the people in the ads, like the copy in the ad, everything there, it will then take that and then do the targeting for us. And so that's what something
really?
It's nutty. So like for almost all of our clients, we barely do a lot of manual targeting on the ad level. It's mostly like making sure the creative is speaking to that target demo and the copy, and the Meta will take that. And we're seeing that it is more efficient and effective, probably 8 times out of 10 than trying to be super
That's
manual.
Interesting. And would you say that is a broad stroke, like across e-commerce, local businesses, like all of that?
Yeah,
Or-
I'd say yes, pretty much. Yeah, the algorithm. It's nutty, but like, yeah, literally,
It is nutty.
It's crazy, but yes, they literally they would probably do a better job finding your customers than you trying to like manually do it. Because what happens is if you're manually doing it, you're kind of putting the algorithm like in its own little like restriction. And so the theory is that Meta is actually better at finding your customers. So if you like say you're only targeting, women ages 35 to 45, well, Meta's like, oh no, there's tons of patients here. There's people that are all over that are more qualified, and that'll actually bring your cost per lead or patient down. So
Now, what if you does this still apply if you sell something like private jet travel?
yeah, it actually does. I mean, like for me, right? I advertise for my business. I am looking for companies that are already doing probably $1 million a year, that have a good budget, to spend on marketing and ads and our team. Like it's a lot of expenses going into it. So these have to be pretty successful people. There's no targeting I do on my level, right?
Interesting.
So it's
blows my
completely
mind,
broad.
man.
Yeah.
That is not what I
that's why I
expected.
think like whether it's yourself or anyone listening that's looking about getting into ads, like you can do some damage on like a lot of these agencies, it's coming from agency guy, like at a small level, you can kind of get away with some things. It's usually when you're trying to scale or when you're dealing with big budgets or your time's more valuable, then it makes sense to bring on someone.
We mentioned Meta a lot.
Yeah.
Is Meta the channel, or like what other channels? Is LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube, pre-roll and all that stuff?
Yeah, for local businesses, I actually think probably Google is like probably priority number 1, I'd say, because it's so search based and so search intent. You want to rank the highest. Pretty easy to do that. Meta would be priority number two. And then, I mean, for local businesses too, like I'm bullish on just like actually like a lot of traditional like advertising and marketing and showing up to events, shaking hands, flyers, like all the traditional stuff, I think goes a long way. And then for e-commerce, basically most of our clients, probably 70% of their spend goes towards Meta, maybe 30% goes towards Google. TikTok is a wild, wild west that's still super volatile. You could definitely, I think TikTok's great for organic content. And then if you have a TikTok shop, it can work. TikTok ads is all over the place. LinkedIn, great for whether you're just trying to build your resume and attract job opportunities, but also if you have a business that's more B2B, LinkedIn crushes. That's how I've grown my business. And then Reddit, you mentioned Reddit. We've seen some interesting stuff with Reddit. Reddit ads are super cheap. Some people say that they work, whatever. In our space, we've seen people do these crazy campaigns where they basically try to take over Reddit communities. So like you'd mobilize like all these accounts to basically go, let's just say you're on a pregnancy subreddit or something and you want to push your prenatal vitamin or something. And so it's like guerrilla marketing of let's just get all these people to start saying, oh, I love this prenatal gummy or whatever it is. And they just like go crazy. Like I've seen those strategies, and a lot of times it can work, but a lot of times people do it poorly and they get shut down immediately.
I'm not a user of Reddit. Like, to be honest with you, Reddit was what I used pre-AI when you had to go down like a weird, Google doesn't really know what you're talking about. Maybe someone in Alaska has seen the same problem.
Yeah.
AI has sort of wiped that out for me.
Yeah.
Does Reddit have the same algorithm that the others have at this point? Because it seems to be pretty much like you're searching something to find a thread.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm trying to think of, Reddit stuff Reddit's just good to get like random people's opinions on everything, obviously. So like, whether it's like working on the gym or like, I don't know. I used, probably last time I used Reddit was like trying to figure out when a DJ comes on a silo in Dallas. And it was easier to go to Reddit and actually find like when people, like what they actually say and stuff. So, yeah, Reddit's interesting. I'm not a power user of Reddit, but I've heard these things, and yeah, I mean, maybe it's like there's probably a Carrollton or Dallas, subreddits and stuff, and people asking about guerrilla marketing. You can get in there, cost you nothing.
That's crazy. You mentioned TikTok Shop, whatnot. You're obviously in the e-commerce space. I assume that has to be at the top of what a lot of your clients are doing.
Yeah.
Gary Vee has been bullish on it for every bit of 18 months. He acts like if you're selling a product and not on there, you're going to be left in the dust, the QVC-ification of TikTok.
Yeah.
What are you seeing with this?
Yeah. So I think TikTok Shop is something we actually have a few clients that we do TikTok Shop like done for them. I think the brands that really crush TikTok, it's like a combination of like in-house powerhouse. So like you need to be great at organic content essentially. And then the other component of what we've built out for companies, and we have some clients that we do this for, is we build out like an affiliate army. And so we do this massive outreach to a bunch of creators. Let's just say you're selling a protein bar targeting women. Let's just get thousands and thousands of affiliates. And with TikTok Shop, the only cost really at the start is your affiliate fees. So these creators get a commission if they sell a product. And so you just want a high volume of creators. You just want as many people talking about it. And there's a lot of people, there's kind of two sides of this, where you have the businesses leveraging it and you have the affiliates who knows, stay-at-home mom looking to make a few extra bucks. She's a TikTok Shop creator. And so there's the creators, you have the shop. And then this is crazy. In China, there are whole warehouses filled with just professional live shoppers. So you'd have like creators that are just in there all day. A company pays this company that has this huge warehouse, and every single room is just like a 24/7 live stream of people pushing product. And I got off a call 2 weeks ago or a couple weeks ago with like, there's now the American versions of this. So like there's this guy that's it's not so much cash is going into all this. It's building out this huge, and I've heard of multiple coming up in the US, kind of dystopian, where you'd have this massive like corporate building, but instead of like all the offices, they're just like they hire like creators. So like, here's like a 24-year-old girl, here's a 45-year-old guy talking about balding, and they just get them in, and it's just like,
I've seen it
all day.
I've seen it, and I don't know where I saw it, but it was basically like, looked like you were at a state fair. It was like stations, Dude Wipes is there.
Yeah, right.
And then, you got like somebody selling Sephora makeup, and they're all just like talking, they got the lights. And I'm like, this is crazy.
It's insane.
Is that the future of where we're headed? Or is this like, do you think this is a fad?
I think it's like Gary Vee always talks about like underpriced attention. Like I think like TikTok Shop has been for the last few years. It's like the underpriced thing where Meta like ads is like, it's getting more expensive, more competitive, harder to make work. So the TikTok Shop thing is something that is viable. It is a pretty heavy lift to get up and running and at scale. It's just a lot of manual stuff. But I think it has a lot of legs to it. I think from what I've seen in like Asia, and it's so much bigger there than here.
It is.
I think it's only going to continue to grow, and just seeing the amount of investment that's going into these crazy creator hubs, I think it's going to be definitely prevalent, next 5 to 10 years. But again, it'll like any marketing channel, it's underpriced now. Everyone will catch up to speed in say 5 years, and it's going to be, what's the new thing?
Washed out.
Yeah.
What do you think the future is for the user-generated content with AI? Influencers that make their money off this? Do you think that value will continue to go up, or do you think that there will be more and more and more people? You start having AI influencers. Like, what do you think the person that I have a patient literally right now that just quit her job, become a full-time influencer, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you think the future is for somebody that does that in 5-10 years?
I personally think AI influencers are a complete scam. So
You think it's a hoax?
It's okay. So there's basically right now it's kind of it's a wild west of marketing. So you could get these AI creators and everything. But I mean, and I'm not, we've leveraged AI and tons of AI into our creative, but it is technically, unless you disclose it, right? I feel like there's going to be a wave of all this regulation, and I think Meta is going to have to catch up to it, where all these AI influencers, like, you can't run that ad unless you blatantly say on the bottom, this is not a real, creator or influencer. This is completely AI. So right now it's like people are taking advantage of it. They're creating a bunch of creative. I think the human authenticity, human touch will still be in demand. And I think it's for the creators that we work with, it's actually like quite hard to find people that are actually good at creating compelling, authentic content that doesn't look like they're just reading off a script and just, promoting a product just because they're getting paid. But I think the AI thing, I feel like it's going to get just heavily regulated, where it won't be, as easy to use, and then you'd have to disclose it. And then when you disclose it, probably will lose its effectiveness.
It loses its effectiveness.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you. I was just because you hear two ends of the spectrum. You hear that the user generated content is going to be like huge, and then you also hear that it's going to become so many people doing it.
Yeah,
the window is going to sort of close. There's going to be less money thrown at it. It's going to be sort of washed out. So I hear both ends of it, right? Gary Vee's like, oh, you got 18 months, you got 36 months before glasses, and like your window is going to be gone. So I always think, being so new to it, I don't have experience like you do, whether, being business. I'm more like, hey, I'm trying to grow my small business in Texas and trying to create organic content. But sometimes I'm like, man, it'd be pretty cool to do this podcast for a living. Or, you know what I mean? Like get paid to throw in some product placements. So I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, if this takes off, it'd be some icing on the cake. But
no, I definitely think, organic, authentic. I think the authentic content is just going to be more in demand. I think a lot of the AI stuff is good. I'm not completely bullish on like AI is like, there's gonna be no more real podcasts. Like it's just gonna be AI slop that we're just gonna be listening to. There's just no way. So
as good as it gets, it doesn't have the human element to it. I mean, I'm sure during our lifetime, we're both young, I'm sure it will get to a point where it's fantastic. It improves our lives. It also probably, there's some negatives to our lives as well and what it can do. But I would agree with you on that. I think that the authenticity of a human being on a product for e-com, like you're saying, is really valuable. It's really, really valuable. I'm going to throw some hot takes at you. When you're doing ads, video versus like a still image, picture, graphic.
I'll say video, but if you're just trying to like get some quick it's a lot obviously easier to get graphics out there. And usually we always start with graphics when we're testing things. And then once we figure out the messaging, we'll move to video. Video generally converts better. A solid video converts better than a still, but still can still work.
Okay. What do you think of, I see these guys all the time and I don't remember the name, but they did all the ads for like Dollar Shave Club and like all of the almost like humorous comedy ads.
Yeah.
And they have a decent track record of like blowing these companies up.
Yep.
How many of your clients are trying to maybe go that route of humorous, kind of funny? There's one that's local that's like Pink's window washing.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, totally.
Like kind of a cool, like old school retro, but sort of funny ads. Like just sort of fun. I've always been like, how do I apply that here? I'm not a creative enough to figure that out. But what do you think on like the humorous sort of taking a brand and blowing it up? Is that still going to be a thing?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I think like that agency you're talking about, I think it's Chamber Media is the one agency that's behind like a lot of those ads, and those were like that was when those started blowing out maybe like 5 years ago. That was very new and novel where like they're almost like high quality, commercial grade commercials that were hysterical. And then like since I feel like it did a heavy shift from that to like UGC and authentic content. But I think that's coming back because of all this AI stuff and people want like true creativity and true authenticity. And so the only struggle with stuff like that is the budget, right? Some of those ads for one ad or like maybe a pack of few ads that you can repurpose from that. Like it's for that creative is $50,000, $100,000 just for the creative, not even running the ads behind it.
The paid spend.
And so that's where like you need for brands, it depends on where you're at. Does investing into creative, that much into creative, is that truly worth it? Is that the right choice? For smaller businesses, you could probably like, that's why, I mean, Pinks, I feel like is pretty founder led market. I feel like they do a great job of doing that all in house. It's like, if you can do that in house, yeah, 100%, that's a good way to stick out.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because whenever I'm creating content, I'm like, should I do ads like that? Like that'd be funny, but it's, they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, it's cheesy, but it also cuts through, which I think's awesome. So how much do you think quality matters? You mentioned like, hey, we went from this sort of really polished thing to more of this user generated content, which is going to be a little bit less polished, people on their iPhones. How much do you think the quality of the ad matters? Do people want to see, does it depend on the brand, whether people want to see something that looks like it came out of a studio, or do people want to see, somebody on their iPhone that's a mom, like, hey, this worked? Like, what do you see the trend on?
Yeah. I think people don't want to see necessarily like TV commercials, but they, it depends on like what quality level we're talking about. But I think I'm just like iPhone style content, authentic. That's the way to go generally for a lot of these things. I think we saw like with Hormozy, when Alex Hormozy started blowing up, everyone did like the camera with the same pop-up text. Like everyone did this style for a while. And then now everyone's kind of moving back to like iPhone style content, just like basic captions and stuff like that. I mean, there's a use case for any, medium of content is what I believe. It matters on your budget, how much effort you want to put into it. But I mean, for us, like we were doing all these like high production talking head videos on a camera and all this stuff, and you get like 5 likes. And then when I just start talking on the iPhone, it's super authentic, it would do way better. So
yeah, it's almost backwards for what you'd think. And, I think that the natural progression of creating content is you want to have the nicer camera, the nicer mics, the better, everything that I've done in here over the past 12 months is something that I wanted, but it's like, how much does that matter in the actual virality of it, the call to action part of it? It's not a ton.
I think one thing though, quality that 100% matters across the board, whether your video shot on an iPhone or a Sony, is audio quality.
For
like
sure.
Even like no matter, that might be, if we're talking about quality, the most important thing is audio quality. Because like the Sures are worth it. The mics on the iPhone, it makes it just much better experience.
For sure. I wanted to get into both from a broad standpoint and someone like me that owns a local business. How important is retargeting on ads?
So it's kind of going back to the whole targeting thing that I said, how we don't do like all this manual targeting stuff. Historically, you'd always want to have, 10, 20, 30% of your budget going towards retargeting. Now what we've seen, this is going to get super into the weeds, is that Meta unraveled something called the Andromeda update. And the Andromeda update is supposedly supposed to let the algorithm do even more stuff with your ads. So like, for example, if you set up a campaign, you actually might want to have in that same exact campaign that you launch, top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, bottom of funnel content. And, after the testing or whatever, Meta itself will figure out what is that customer journey that will bring the content in. So maybe we'll say, okay, these batch of ads are really good at top of funnel, but then I hit them with a middle of funnel and then the bottom of funnel. So it's less so on like in the ads manager, retargeting site visitors or retargeting Instagram profile visits. It's keeping it sort of broad. I personally still use a little bit of retargeting for my business just to keep it manual and running. But I mean, most of the budget, 89% of budget should be going towards top of funnel, generally speaking.
Do you feel like you mentioned that this algorithm is getting so good? What do you think about your agency in the terms of like 10, 15, 20 years? If it's so good, does someone need you?
Yeah, that's something that we're definitely thinking about. Whether we're starting to become like integrated with softwares and stuff in house that we can build to improve the experience. I also think that at the end of the day, we've structured our agency to focus most on the creative and all the other components outside of media buying, because media buying used to be this crazy skill to have. Now it's less so a huge focus. And so that's where all our other services like creative and ad strategy and briefing and these creators and email marketing and all that good stuff that really comes into play. So we're always, we're always flexible and aligned with the times for sure. The other thing too is that we've yet to see like Meta and like AI just completely like, one click of the button and it's all good to go. So until that time comes, we'll be.
I think they're always going to need a human touch. I kind of asked that a little bit being devil's advocate there. I mean, I think that you're always going to have work. I think it's just going to, it might make your job easier at convincing a client that this is going to work,
Yeah.
Throw it in here, allow us to manage it. And really the algorithm's going to get it to who it needs to get to.
Right.
Which is awesome. Let me ask you a question I saw your video on Groons, or how do you say that?
Yeah, Groons. Yeah.
And this is something that I've been doing in my business recently. I listened to a podcast, and I'm trying to remember the book that this came from, but a guy was talking about the CD Baby company and how the founder of that was very big on that first touch point of the email after you signed up for CD Baby.
Yep.
CD Baby was a way that you could like publish podcasts like this or songs from your basement kind of before Spotify and all that, right? You could get it out to Amazon Music and Apple Music and all that, right? So the very first email you got was like a very personalized email, and it was like, welcome to the family. Like, we're happy to have you here. And it was kind of a personal touch for such a massive company at the time. And I heard that podcast and I was like, I implemented that into my practice here. Like 4 hours after you show up here and we check you out, 4 hours later, you get an email that's kind of personally from me. Welcome to the practice. Here's what you can expect of today's visit. Here's what you can expect for next visit. What do you feel like is a successful email sort of flow after someone acquires a product?
Yeah. So, I mean, for any business, like, I feel like what keeps a customer around, yes, obviously a great product and service, but also like brand, community, connection, authenticity. So, with a lot of our, for e-commerce, we have these things, and many businesses have. You have the automations, you have the flows that happen after someone walks in the door or does their appointment or purchases. You have those like post-purchase sequences, and so what a lot of businesses make the mistake of is they kind of just like, they don't have any touch points after the sale. Their job's done, they got the sale, they're good to go. Without really understanding, okay, like we need to keep this person coming back because really the profit is built and the cash flow is it's really built in the lifetime value of a customer. So the few components that we look to do whenever we're building out email flows or something is 100% founder story or something from the point of view of like the team. If the founder's not too involved, or it's the marketing team or CEO, anything that's like kind of personal note, personal touch, to kind of welcome them into community 100%. And then the other thing is like a lot of education. So if your product is like, for example, like Groons is a supplement, and really for them to get that lifetime value, for that customer to keep buying, they need to make sure that customer is actually consuming it. So what they do is they create a routine out of that post-purchase thing. So it's like, okay, by day one, you should be feeling like this. Day one, okay, reminder, take your vitamins. This is how you should feel, like blah, 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 blah. And then also it's a good opportunity in that post-purchase sequence is to not only bring them into your community, educate them, provide them value, but also get feedback. Can you get a review? Can you get, or some really authentic like feedback so you can improve as a company? Those things like that. And then lastly, it could be even like referring other people, right? So sometimes the best marketing is word of mouth and referrals. Obviously, it's the best customers to get because they're warm, they trust you. So there's always an opportunity to get that in the mix for a post-purchase or email flow.
I think that's awesome. What do you feel like is too much in terms of, sometimes when I was thinking about this, I was like, how much is too much? Is there a point where people are like, okay, like this is just annoying? What do you think is the sweet spot for that?
Yeah. So what we do with any email marketing client is we want to segment out our audience. So you might have like your highly engaged people. They click on your stuff, they open your stuff, like they keep feeding them, like keep giving them more content. You might have some people that are more cold, don't really, interact with your emails as frequently. So maybe you hit them a little bit less touch points. And so you can segment out your list based on the behavior of those customers. The important thing to do generally with email marketing is not to be extremely salesy, not too much call to action, not too much this. It's how can we maybe 80 to 20% value to like ask, right? And so Gary Vaynerchuk, it's like he has a book, it's like a jab, right hook or whatever. So you want to just like keep giving, value. And then, hey, we have a special promotion, or hey, we have a sale, or hey, we have a new product launch, or hey, we have a, whatever, when there's a reason to, go for that ask. But there's so many through that process, right? There's so many like FAQs and customer objections and all these little things. I'd imagine for, chiropractors, tons and tons of knowledge that you can just show your expertise by just giving them just value. Hey, here's a quick, exercise you can do in the morning or whatever. Like all that stuff they're not, paying you for this stuff, but the second that they need a procedure done or whatever, you'll be the first one they'll come to.
Super true. You mentioned jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously not a marketing major. I'm a chiropractor, right? So what's interesting is I always used to analyze people's ads when I was in school and before I was even in this business. And I kind of was sniffing out what a good ad and what a bad ad was when people, all they did was right hook, right? They're on Instagram going, come see me, come see me, come see me. Here's how great you're going to feel, like from this business particularly. Yeah. And I was like, God, this is just so like, who would follow this?
Right.
Like, you think I'm going to follow like your account that's just asking versus give, and then maybe ask at the end.
Right.
It was so crazy when I started getting into Gary Vee and I was like, man, I've noticed this for years. I just didn't, I'm not a marketing guy. So it's kind of funny. I was like, this ad, this creative sucks. Like I can't imagine who is converting off you just begging people to come in saying how great your product is, how good they're going to feel. And I don't know, it was kind of crazy.
And that's honestly on that point too. Like that's where a kind of good blend of like organic content, paid ads actually like kind of works together. Cause let's just say your organic is like, there's no call to actions. It's all about value. Your organic content is just to provide value. And then you layer on the ads, which is like that's the hook that's the right hook that gets them, when they're ready to buy. That's more direct response, strong call to action. That's where those can kind of work together. Like
you mentioned Hormozy. You've done some work in the gym space. You said early on. How much has he influenced your career?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, his line of books, $100 million books, like literally have came out. Like, it's funny. Every single time we have like a big problem in the business, it's like, that's the next book he releases. So even just from like those books, reading $100 million offers when I was starting this thing, like that was huge. That, I mean, aspirationally, that is something like his business model is something that we aspire to do, something just like that. But I mean, for someone like, he's the prime example of giving just so much, like all the value, like that's like got more value than, my bachelor's in finance. Then I got more value in Hormozy than my bachelor's in finance, just because he gives so much, is so practical and actually can like use and implement.
Hopefully your parents aren't watching this. So I feel like I've seen a video, if I'm correct on Hormozy, that he has a video saying that he does not do call to actions, which I don't know if that's true based on his last book.
Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. But.
Because were you a part of that at all? His last release?
I bought it all. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I heard. So sometimes when I hear like, okay, you hear people like, I don't know if you're familiar with some of these names, like Andy Elliott, and some of these sales coaches, it's like, are they actually good at what they're good at? Or are they good at selling courses, right? You've got this snake oil. We mentioned this very early on. And Hormozy was one that I was like, he adds a ton of value, right? But it's like this last book seemed a little bit where he might have been, trust me, I'm not in the weeds like you are. And you might have been like, this is nothing but value. But I heard some of the stats on, he had like 100 people say like they'd give him $100,000 for an hour or something at the end of this live stream. And I'm thinking, good Lord.
Yeah. Hormozy, I think the thing about Hormozy is that he's actually 100% like done the things that he said he's done.
You can't argue that.
He's had that, huge exit, like he's done all that stuff. And, whatever it was, I bought like the $6,000 offer for like all these playbooks and stuff. And I was like, even if I don't get value from like these playbooks in theory, which I ended up I thought we got value once we implemented it. It's like, I've been following this guy for 5 years now, and I've got my worth for
Correct.
it. So
you're like, time to pay.
If you're just like an outsider or whatever, just seeing this guy like on this info marketing live stream, pitching all this stuff, like you'll be like, okay, this guy's, is he just a sleazy guy? But like, if you're like a true, like in the weeds of everything, like I know I have multiple peers that have gone like on site to Vegas to do their like in-person events, like all that stuff. And they always rave about the value that they get. So
interesting. Yeah. He's big in the gym scene, and it's interesting to see like his progression. I remember seeing him early on, and he's really, really blown up. But did he have a saying where it was like, don't do any call to actions, and like if they want to buy from you, like make it easy in your bio or something like that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, for years he did like, I have nothing to sell you, which he like truly didn't at the time. But then, yeah, I mean, none of his content like is directly. It's few and far between. I think he's like 99%, give to take, and it's usually like give all the free content, tons of free content, and then he does like those big launches where it's like once every a couple of years he does those big launches, which is the big ask, and makes 100+ mil in 24 hours.
I heard a stat of like, I don't know how many. Did you hear the number of like what he made off that event? It was crazy.
I don't know what did you hear? I know
I heard something like 400 million. I don't know.
I don't even
ridiculous.
know. I think it was definitely over 100 million. Just
in that, it might have been I think it was definitely 100 million in just books.
Yeah, in just books.
And that's not counting like
the consulting stuff.
People that did what you did and like the consulting stuff.
Yeah.
So that's insane. If you were starting a startup in e-commerce tomorrow, what are the top 3 things that you would do in terms of getting your message out there, getting your content like created? Like, how would you go about that?
Top 3 things. So, one, I would really try to go for a blue ocean, or at least a very strong differentiator. So like we work with a lot of supplement brands or a lot of clothing brands, a lot of like stuff that's just super competitive. If you figure out a good product that has a very, very strong differentiator or in a completely new category, that's going to be like one of the highest leverage things that you do is like, what's the product? So I do a year plus of just researching and trying to figure out what product is actually going to be that thing. Second, I would look for something that has like natural virality. So like something that, there's a great example. There's a brand called Tabs Chocolate, which was it was a chocolate that you'd take with your wife or girlfriend before you have sex, and it had this visible thing where it's a square, and you'd break it in half, and it was in this gold wrapper, and that thing just blew off, which is viral. So obviously they had like, yes, it's like an interesting product, is visual appearing, viral, taboo. That thing blew off.
That's insane. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I saw that.
So there's like things like that. So is it viral? Is it going to be shared? Does it have an interesting like use process when you're putting it together that's like naturally like even if you just didn't know what it was, you just saw that, be like, would that be, what is that? It just sparks curiosity. You want to share it with friends and family. And then the third thing has got to be lifetime value, strong repeat customer. So I would be banking off of how do I get a product that's viral, that'll have a flywheel of word of mouth, but also gets people like on subscription, coming back naturally month over month, because like I said, lifetime value is just like the lifeblood of a lot of these businesses. And if you're really only focused on that, front end purchase, it's tough to make that work from like a marketing standpoint, scale standpoint.
You've seen everything go subscription based, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like talking to somebody, I used to produce music and DJ and stuff back in the day. I was like, back in the day, a lot of these programs to do all this were $300, $400, $500 to get in. Looking back, it's like, that was actually a good investment, because you might spend $300, $400, $500 in the first 18 months of all these scripts. Now way easier to get in, like $18 a month, $20 a month, right? Adobe is a prime one, right?
Yeah.
Used to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to buy it. Now it's 80, 100, $150 a month, depending on what you get. So you're literally paying for that in a year.
Yeah.
A year. How has social media helped you with your business? Like how has social media helped you guys scale?
Yeah, I always say this, but I'm not an influencer. I'm not this big creator. I have a humble audience, but I've been posting content for, since I was at college, and, posting content led me to meeting a business partner that I'd created a successful business with and moved to Texas with. It's made me get pretty much all my clients off the back of LinkedIn. LinkedIn was the main channel that helped me get all my clients for the first couple of years. And then, now I see it as like we do a lot of paid advertising and stuff, but just like being online and consistently showing up day after day, you don't even have to go viral, but if someone can just jump onto your account, see what you're about, start to build that trust, it makes it so much easier for, a client, a customer feel comfortable actually, spending with you or becoming a paying customer. So, it's not necessarily all about going viral. It's just about showing up, showing what you're working on, being authentic, and hopefully building that trust.
I love it. You have a video that I watched the other day, and you said when someone mentions a book, you just buy it.
Yeah.
No questions asked. You just buy it. What books are you into these days?
Yeah, I just read The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he put out a good book a couple years ago. It was like 10x is easier than 2x or something. And so this next one that he put out was The Science of Scaling. It was like how to actually like scale just a lot faster. So that book was great. I just wrapped that one up. I've been diving a lot deeper into personal finance. So Psychology of Money is what I'm actively reading. Very interesting because it basically talks about how, you have all these. Finance is not so much an analytical game. It's not just all about the spreadsheets. It's not about that. It's actually such a psychological factor. Why can a janitor, who's made minimum wage his whole life end up a millionaire, but like a hedge fund manager lose all his money? And even though he had like 500K or making $1 million a year off that, what's that factor? This guy had the knowledge, this guy didn't have the technical knowledge of finance, but yet he ends up richer. So there's a lot of psychological things. So I've been diving deep into that book right now.
Dan Martell has a video I was just watching yesterday that was, you can make $1 million a year and spend $1.1 million and you're going to feel broke.
Yep.
You can make $100,000 a year and spend 50 and save 50 a year and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're how old?
25.
My gosh, man, you got a bright future ahead of you. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's switch gears here a little bit. What else are you into besides advertising, finance, and work?
Yeah. So my business partners and I, we're all about health and fitness. We've done marathons, we did high rocks, we've done powerlifting. But I've been in a slump lately with my fitness. And I'm thinking about, once that Dallas video blew up or whatever, I'm like, I just need to post just like more stuff about, my interests and hobbies. And so through college, I was a power lifter. I like took that very seriously. And, but I never hit the 315 bench press. I have these long, lanky arms. I need to figure out how to hit 315. So I'm doing a challenge. And my wife told me last month that, hey, you need to put more muscle back on. I was like, okay, blow the ego.
Come on, man.
No, I'm not. No, compared to like, I used to be so dialed more into bodybuilding, and then I did this whole running thing, and so I got a little smaller. But so I'm having ChatGPT coach me, do a 16-week. I asked it, say, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me bench 315 in 16 weeks? And ChatGPT goes, okay, what was your most recent, bench that you did? I was like, okay, I did maybe 215 for 8. Okay, they backwards engineer. Okay, that's probably like a 270 to 275, bench right now. Here's the whole plan. ChatGPT goes, I think you can do it in 12 weeks. Okay, Coach ChatGPT, I'm gonna have you be my coach. The intention of being purely hit 315 on bench and put more muscle on, and just let ChatGPT be my fitness coach. So fitness, long story short, fitness. Huge passion of mine. I'm trying to think, what else do I do? I don't just work and go to the gym. Golly. What else do I do? I mean, I have my wife and my dog, so we're always, doing fun stuff, walking on the Katy Trail. Thinking about, just got married. So I'm in that whole,
congratulations, man.
That whole time of my life, just planning everything. So
you got me wondering, like, I this always comes up on every podcast, and it's like, what industries do you think are most going to be impacted? And normally I have doctors and lawyers and other people sitting in your chair, and it's like, oh, I think the people that don't do like procedures or people that do read contracts all day long, like they're out. In your field, like you just, and I've used ChatGPT the same way. Like, hey, I want to do this. Like, build me a plan. Yeah. Like, who do you think is in trouble with this, career wise?
Man, trying to think of a non-cliche answer here, and what I've actually seen.
Like, do you think the people that build a fitness Instagram and sell a course or sell like training, like, do you think that will always be like something somebody wants, that human touch? Yeah. Or do you think that someone like you that's busy, like, hey, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT on how I can bench 350 or 315?
15, yeah.
315 and 16, it's confident in me that I can do 12 weeks. Like, literally just it pepped you up there.
Yeah.
So, like, do you think that there's a need? Like, I know there's a need, but what do you think the future of these people look like?
So my wife runs a successful online fitness coaching company. And this is something that we talk about.
I did not know that. Asking you that question.
That's also my like side project, because I help her run her ads for that business, and that's super successful. She was actually a nurse, and then kind of was doing bikini prep and was super into bodybuilding. And then once she became a nurse, she's like, I can coach clients. And then now her niche is coaching nurses in fitness. So it's like helping nurses with fitness. And this is something that we talk about. And, cause I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, hey, should I get a coach? Like, I feel like, I'm not like in my college years where like fitness is all I'm thinking about. Like most of my effort is just going towards the business. I know what to do for my diet. I know how to train, but the big missing piece is accountability. And that's something that, I think a coach and a personal touch is everything, right?
Totally.
So my thinking with the ChatGPT thing, I was thinking about getting a coach because of that. I was like, I know what to do, but I just need some like guy to just like check in with me once a week, and I'd spend, the hundreds of dollars just for that thing because it'll actually I know it'll be worth it. So that's what I was thinking with the ChatGPT thing. I'm just going to start posting about it and almost have like audience or people hold me accountable, just tell people I'm doing it. That's always a good way to, hold yourself accountable. Is to just tell other people. I think it's great,
man. I think you're right. I kind of led you with that question. I did not know that your wife was it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So she quit as a nurse?
Yeah. She started, it's kind of similar to me. She actually worked for an online fitness coaching company as an assistant coach through like most of her college years. And, she was like, I think I can do this on my own. She had a good Instagram following. And so she got her senior year, got a good roster of clients. And she was like, okay, I got my degree in nursing. Do I want to go into, she was in the hospitals, about to go do that whole thing. And, she's like, well, I'm just going to take the leap and do this. So we were both after college is self-employed and just we'll just take the risk and figure it out. That is
crazy, man. I applaud both of you. That's insane. Because I had some virality with this, what are your top 3 restaurants in Dallas?
Top 3. Oh man. I'm the same way. I'd say Dallas food is good, but people just don't think it's good, but maybe, I don't know what it is.
So how's the food in Boston? I've never been to Boston before.
Boston's top tier. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty top tier. It's top tier. You got the seafood. You got in Boston, you got the North End, the best Italian food. So it's pretty good. But for Dallas, I live in Victory Park. So the Henry. Have you been there?
I have not, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay, the Henry. Big fan of the Henry. I'm trying to think what else here. That's not like a chain that I can actually say. That's actually good.
That was my problem. I gave Granted, I asked, let me be honest, I made ChatGPT give me 10 restaurants.
Yeah.
And it gave me 6 chains. People are like, you idiot.
Yeah.
You think Mi Cocina is the best Mexican food in the city? I was like, I love Mi Cocina.
Yeah.
I love me some Mi Cocina.
Yeah.
I'll literally put that at number 1. I love it. It's my thing.
Yeah.
People are like, you dummy. They don't even make their own tortillas. I'm like, I get it. It's not a food truck in Tijuana. I get it.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
So you're going Henry?
Henry, I love.
Okay.
Haywire.
Okay. Fantastic. I was there 2 nights ago.
Okay. Yeah. Haywire. I used to live in Legacy. So I used to go to one.
Yeah. That's not too far.
So Frisco. Yeah. So that one, and there's one in Dallas too. Oh man. Third one. This is a Mi Cocina level pick, but I got to throw Mexican sugar.
Mexican sugar is great. Fun fact. Same owner as Haywire.
Oh, I'm just a Haywire owner's lover then. There we go.
I'm thinking about trying to get their CEO on here.
That'd be sick.
Because this podcast it's funny. I played on this TV up here.
Yeah.
My patients are like, who's that guy? Is he a doctor? I'm like, oh no, he buys and sells businesses. This guy owns a coffee shop. They're like, okay. I'm like, it's not like, let me find how many doctors I can bring on this thing. I just try to keep it fun and keep it open, man. Tell people how they can find you, man. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Patrick N. O'Driscoll. That's probably the best place to find me. YouTube, Patrick O'Driscoll. LinkedIn, Patrick O'Driscoll. Just search Patrick O'Driscoll, you'll find me. And
then if they want to work with you, if they've got a massive business with a massive ad spend, and they're trying to use your business to scale, how do they find you?
Yeah, so our website is thevisionarygrouptx.com. That's our website. It's linked in all my socials, and then you can apply and book a call, and you'll talk to me.
Fantastic. Patrick, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great episode having you on, and I learned a lot from you, so I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.